Hello everyone, Michael Holman here from curtsclocks, the Atmos repair specialist, and we have a link for our website www.curtsclocks.com below in the description box. Today I want to show you how to regulate the Atmos clock by Jaeger LeCoultre. And here I have a friend's 526.5 that I'm regulating, and it's currently in the process of a suspension wire job, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that later. And this clock is an antique from the 50s, about mid-50s, and they are built to last. And that is why it's worth investing in the repair of your Atmos clock, and why they're much nicer as art or furniture than cheap throwaway battery clocks. And this clock is going to soon have been through 3 generations of a family, and that's something pretty special and sentimental, and certainly adds value to this clock to that friend of mine. So he'll be happy to have it back home, and someday his son will have it. It was his father's. So I have the glass off for ease of seeing and reducing the reflection on the video. And when you regulate your clock at home, you'll have the glass on for most of the Atmos clock models. The 519 or the 528-6, you have the lift-off cover, so you'll have to take that off. So when you regulate the clock at home, you want to lock the balance. And you can just lock it at the end of the rotation, which is fine for moving the clock or regulating at home. But if you're going to ship it, you don't want to just do it at that, and I'll talk to you about that here in a second. So I'll show you what we do is just let that balance rotate to the end of its travel and lock it there. There it goes. Goes around again and stops. Carefully lock. You don't want to yank on this balance or bump it around too much. As you can see, I have gloves on, and I do that because after I've cleaned and I service a clock, I don't want to go and get my fingerprints all over it again. And you know that if you have fingerprints on your clock at home, you just wipe them off carefully, and you don't use any chemicals, because chemical cleaners will destroy the finish of your clock. So stay away from them with that. So now that I have it locked, you can see that roller, and I'm not getting good focus here with this camera. That roller has been rotated all the way around and is not inside the pallet fork, so that's fine. And you're always conscious of the position of that roller and where it is in relation with the fork. And we've identified this and gone over this in how to start your Atmos clock video, so please watch that first or check it out if you have questions about any of these parts. And I apologize for the movement on the camera. It's just a handheld camera, so I will try to remove that if I can. So we have it locked there. If you're going to ship the clock, you want to lock it with that roller inside the fork, and that's a little bit more secure. And sometimes these locking mechanisms can still allow the balance to move around in shipping or transport. And see, it's just a mechanism that pushes up and holds that balance in place. And in certain models, they've added an additional screw that you will move up here that also supports the balance to keep things in place when they're moved around in larger distances. Moving from shelf to shelf at home is no problem, just locking it and stopping it this way, or regulating like we're going to show you here. So we've gone over those parts, and anyway at home, just stop it there. And let's say that this clock is running slow. So I imagine that'll be the case for most of you, because as the clock becomes nearer and nearer time for cleaning, oiling, and overhaul of the mainspring, it typically begins to run slow. And slow adjustment time is the easy way, and all you do is you stop the clock like we've done and move hands up to the time you want. So we'll see that this clock is 2 minutes slow over a week. You notice that after a week you look up and your clock is a couple minutes slow. Move it up to the time you want, and then you'll look up here at the regulating lever. And I'm going to try to get this focused in nicely as we can, and for some reason this camera's not recognizing things very well. But what you're going to see up here is FA, which is fast or advanced, and slow R, which is slow or retard. So this clock was running slow. So we're going to move it one of those tiny increments on the regulating lever. We're just going to move it half the distance between two of those. Just a slight adjustment like that. I barely move it. Just half the distance is between these demarked increments that they have on the regulating lever. So you move that up to fast or advanced because we were running 2 minutes slow. And then start your clock. You just unlock that, and because it's at the end of that rotation, it's going to start untwisting and running. You know, the clock will begin its distance there on the balance. So you don't want to get into over adjusting. You only move half of that increment that I showed you per 24-hour time period. So you made your adjustment, now you're going to let your clock run for a full day before you come back here and attempt to adjust it again. 24 hours per adjustment, and that's the way you do it, and it's very important that you don't get into over adjusting. Small incremental adjustments and adequate running in between time is essential. And this is why clock repair takes a lot of patience and time, and which many today, in kind of an instant gratification world that we get used to, you don't always think about, is that you hear that watch repair or clock repair shops take so long because they're slow or they don't work, you know, the way that you do in a different industry. But really what it is that time is required to ensure that the timekeeping of an instrument is accurate. It has to have a running period, and adjustments are made. Like, I've gone through the wire replace job and the cleaning and overhaul and everything on this clock, but now it still has some adjustments and regulation to be done on it, and that's going to take time for me here. And back to regulating now. When you've reached all the way over, you've done this, and you've done, you know, over the course of a month, and you've been making adjustments, and it's still running slow, and you've moved your lever all the way over to the advanced side as far as you can, and you can't get any more out of it, it's time to call and schedule for an overhaul. Cleaning, oiling, and bellow test, and oiling the mainspring inside the barrel. You never oil that externally, anything on an Atmos clock. That's a common mistake that people will make with them, and you never want to do that. So you want to call me. There is a way to get a couple more lever adjustment ranges out of the top of your regulating lever, but you should call me or contact me or contact a qualified repair person to do that. I don't want to just show you how to do that on top, getting another spectrum out of your regulating lever just for you to try at home without much experience. Analogous time means that the previous 12-hour cycle will have a count in the following 12-hour cycle. So if it's off a minute in 12 hours, that will make it 2 minutes in one day. So imagine an instance where a clock is off 1 minute per week. Well, you're going to have your clock on the mantle for years, and that's the goal. You know, so it's important that I get my time to fully run the clock and ensure timekeeping. You know, like a 2-week winding period to allow that adjustment to be made. And, you know, it's very fine-tuned adjustments we're talking now, and you know, now it's going to sit on your mantle for 6 months, and I don't want you to have to mess with it. So when you move that regulating lever, what you're doing is adjusting the length of the wire. A longer wire will take slightly longer to twist and untwist, and a shorter wire will be quicker. So up here there's a regulating clamp inside of a cannon, and that's being pushed down or it's being lifted up with a spring mechanism in the lever, and that adjusts the length of the wire. So when you move that, what you're doing is adjusting, and these are fine-tuned adjustments. Larger adjustments can be made and are often necessary when replacing a suspension wire like we have done here on this clock. And often the way to get the clock back is the time that's being regulated after I replace the wire. The length of wire, the amount of wind or resistance on the mainspring, mass, weight on the balance down here. There's mass, they call it, and they're just weights. Horizontal level. These are all variables that can combine to form timekeeping of a clock. So when you replace the wire, it's a very high skilled job, and you push a thin wire through a tiny regulator clamp without putting a single bend or twist or kink in the wire, and then you have to put the wire through the balance tube, suspend it properly, put it in beat, and poise the balance tube. It has to be in a correct position where it's not touching, and so you see that it's best to leave these major adjustments to a qualified technician. And curtsclocks, we have very competitive wire replacement prices at $200 for the wire and the entire job and all the regulating and things that go into it, and knowledge and skill. I don't mean to brag, but that's a pretty cheap price when you think about all the things that I do. And let's say now that your clock is running fast. We're going to go back to talking about regulating your clock here. And say that your clock is running fast. Well, you're going to do the same thing. Come down here. It's at the end of the rotation. We stop it carefully. Move that over. Don't yank or bump that. It's running fast. You do the same thing, except now the hands are going to be further ahead than the actual time. And you never go backwards, like I've said before. Never just take your hands and go back in time. Just remember history. You can't go back. When you get in arguments, once things are said, they're said. You can't go back and take them back. Same thing here. Don't go back on your dial on your Atmos clock. Stop it. Okay? I'm scolding you. Stop your clock. Go do something else. Go walk away. This is what I do. I have other things on my list of chores to get done. So I'll stop it, go do things, and let time pass, and then you come back and you see, oh, I got busy, sidetracked. Now it's behind, the clock, I stopped it an hour ago. Well, now you can just track your hands around to the time and then start it again like we showed you. And see, since I have that roller at a good distance away from the pallet fork, we can stop, or we can start it and let it continue here. If you don't get a good start because of that, you're losing motion, or for some reason, you'll just carefully take your fingers at the bottom of the balance, and watch how to start your Atmos video to do this first, please. And you'll rotate that roller around till you see it's a good distance away from the fork, and then let it go. But please watch that video. The camera I used on that video captured a better view of that area than this one seems to be doing. So now that's how you do it when it's running fast. You got to stop it, walk away, come back, set the time, and let it go. And it's running fast, so up here you're going to move your regulating lever to the slow adjustment, which is going to be making your wire longer, as essentially, and that's just a minor adjustment. And that's just the way I prefer to do this. Please email or comment any questions you have, and I'd be sure to help you with any support you need for your Atmos clock. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, so please like, share, subscribe, and we'll be developing this channel with everything Atmos clock. We're true fans of these amazing instruments, and thank you for watching. Have a great day. Ciao.